these pumpkins that have a removable lid. They're ceramic. They come in a white or an orange color. I grabbed the orange. It doesn't really matter which color you get. Just grab 2 of them. So I'm going to start by putting some adhesive on the pumpkins to attach them together. Now you can use any adhesive you like, something that's real construction grade like E6000 or some kind of construction adhesive. I will link below the kind I'm using as well as any product I use in the video plus what I'm wearing. Anything you need to know will be down in the description box. So when I was putting the pumpkins together, I actually realized that I should put them to where the tops were together. They just laid a lot nicer, so I had to move it around and re-glue it. Now let that dry for several hours. So I really wanted to nail down my color scheme this year for fall. So what I did was I went to Sherwin-Williams and I picked out 6 different paint colors that were in the colors I was wanting to use for fall. To cut down on my cost of paint, I then purchased samples. Well, I guess Sherwin-Williams doesn't have samples right now, so I ended up having to go to Home Depot and I got all of these paints because you can take paint swatches from any company to any different store. I picked up samples of each of my paint colors. I think they were around $8 each and I got them in a flat finish. So these are the colors that I'm gonna be using throughout the whole season. To paint my pumpkins, I'm gonna be using this subdued color and I'm going to do 2 coats on all of the pumpkins. Once that dries, I'll use my construction adhesive glue to add on a white plate to the top. Now, if you haven't guessed yet, I'm making a fun centerpiece cake plate to put out in my kitchen. Once everything dries, just fill it with your favorite treats, and I love having this out on my kitchen table. Last fall, one of my most popular projects was when I painted an owl and sanded it. So when I saw the fox this year, I said, hey, let's try the fox and see how that goes. So I went in with 2 coats of the white paint that I had picked up from Home Depot, and I do kind of regret picking that weight. I think it would have been better if I just used Waverly white paint because Waverly white paint's a little bit easier to sand. Once it has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in with sandpaper and you're gonna pull off all the details so that you can see the details in the ears, the nose, the eyes, around the tail, and it just kind of makes a cute little figurine. So here's how the fox turned out. For this next project, you're gonna grab 3 jars and 3 sets of the LED fall lights. A cool kind of melody. You rattle my cage without warning. We're gonna start by painting the tops in an ivory color. So I'm just gonna do 2 coats of paint on the top of the jars. You'll find a different side of me, the one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah. Now with the bottom section, I'm going to spray paint these in a frosted color. It's a color called Ice. Now I did have to buy this spray paint off of Amazon. It's not available in stores anywhere where I live, so I'll link it for you down below. Once everything has dried, I'm gonna add my batteries to the LED lights, and then I'm gonna put 1 set in each of my containers. The one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah. You'll find a different side of me, like someone pretty neat, a different side. Now I was trying to figure out how I wanted to hang these, so I ended up using twine, and I'm just going to get 3 long strands, and I'm going to tie 3 strands around each of my containers.
changing me. Day by day got me shedding skin. The layers are peeled away. Got me.
And then I'll pull those 3 strands up and tie them in a knot at the top to hold it in place. Now I did that for all 3 of the containers, and here's how they look styled and all lit up. For this next project, I grabbed a grouping of bottles from Dollar Tree, and really you could grab anything you want, vases, bottles, whatever look you're going for. And with one of the bottles, I had to take off the silver piece at the top. I really love the look of amber glass, and I found this spray paint online that's like an amber spray paint. I was wondering if I tried the amber look, how it would turn out. So I took all of my glass pieces outside and I'm gonna spray paint them. Now, one of the things I learned is you want to do thin coats and let them dry between each coat. That's going to give you a better indication of how it looks because you want it to have that see-through element to it. I would say in the end, I probably did 3 coats, but they were very thin coats. I think these amber bottles look great with your other decor. Add them with some pumpkins and you have a really cute display. One of my favorite things to create in the fall is wreaths, but I wanted to give you some other options you could create with florals that were actually, really neat large wall pieces. So I came up with this idea, and honestly, I love the way it turned out. And it's a massive piece of wall art. So you're going to want to go to Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, anywhere that you can purchase florals. You're gonna gather some large fall color florals that you think will work together. I'm gonna start with these 2 large bundles. These are actually from Hobby Lobby. And I'm gonna take those large bundles and put the bottom portions together so that the top of the stems are pointing one way on one of the bundles and the other way on the other. I'm gonna take the zip tie that was already on the bundle and I'm just going to zip tie these 2 together. Now I wanted the edges of my branches to kind of be spread out at the end. So as I was doing this, I was kind of spreading the branches out on either side. Next, I came in with some wheat style branches from Hobby Lobby. I cut them off the stems and I just placed them where I thought they looked nice. And then I used my hot glue gun to hot glue them underneath those existing stems. You want to make sure that you tuck that bottom piece so that you don't see it. And then Dollar Tree has these gorgeous stems out right now that I'm so in love with them. They're so natural and beautiful looking. I'm gonna take 3 of those and place those in my arrangement. The more variation and texture that you can have, the more fuller your display is going to look. Next, I flipped the piece on the front and I wanted to cover up that center area. So I grabbed a couple of those wheat branches. I twisted them together so you couldn't see the bottom ends and then hot glued that in the center. So that's gonna cover up any imperfections from where I was gluing or zip tying. Next, I'll flip the entire piece on the back, and as I was doing this, some of the pieces were kind of coming undone, so then I went in with some additional hot glue just to really reinforce things. You could also add in zip ties on the back as well. Now to hang this, I wanted it to look really natural, so I grabbed some of my nautical rope. I'll link the one in the description box that I use, and I'm going to just be hot gluing it to the sides of my branches. So in order for it to stay, I'm really gonna have to get that glue on several of the branches so that the nautical rope can hold and be secure in place. You can hang this on your wall with a simple nail. I hung this up in my bedroom. It is massive and I just love it. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of this piece down in the comments. So one of the items I create a lot of on my channel are garlands, and I do a lot of wood bead garlands. So I wanted to switch it up and give you guys another option for a garland you could create for your home. So we're gonna be making a clay garland. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna purchase a clay. I really like this Crayola one. I get it in the color white off of Amazon. I'll link it for you below. But essentially you're going to need 3 packages for this. So just one of the containers you buy off of Amazon will be plenty. I think 4 bags come in one container. So I'm going to start by creating 1-inch balls for all of the garland. Then I went and grabbed some skewers. These were ones that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take them and press the skewer through the middle of my clay ball. Then I will just leave it on there. I'm gonna twist the skewer in it a little bit just to make sure when I go back through with my twine, I'll be able to do that easily. So you're gonna repeat this several times until you have the desired amount you're going for.
Regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I want.
Next up is painting. So once everything has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in and paint. I chose 4 of the different colors that I had picked out for this look. So I'm gonna paint 2 coats of paint. Now I want this to be kind of rustic, so I was okay if the paint wasn't perfect on this. This is kind of personal preference here, so if you want it to be more finished, maybe, make sure you do other coats. Now it's great painting them on these skewers because then you can just put them on something to dry, and I'll let them dry completely. Next, I'm going to be using a pretty firm twine to put my garland on, and I'm simply going to string the different clay balls that I created onto the garland. Once I was doing this, I realized I didn't really like how the red balls were looking in this grouping. I decided I wanted to keep it more muted, so I simply just took them off and I used the 3 colors I had. Sometimes you just have to make adjustments when you see it all put together.
Live life without regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew.
Now you could add tassels to the end. I decided not to do that, so I grabbed some of my thicker twine and I just tied it in a knot about 3 times at the end. I cut off any excess. Because I was going to be hiding the knots, I didn't really feel like I needed to do tassels, but you could always do tassels at the end. And this is how it looks styled on a table in my living room. So for our next project, we're gonna create perfect wall art for fall. Love the way this turned out. Now you're going to pick up 2 oval or circular frames for this. I had trouble finding any at Dollar Tree. I know they've had them in the past, but I ended up purchasing mine off of Amazon. I'll link the ones that I picked up down below. Next, I wanted to create a silhouette of a bird. So I went back in the Cricut design space and I typed in new project and I went in to look for, the best one that I could find. And this was kind of a fun process. Once I found the one that I wanted, I just brought it into the design space. And again, all you have to do is resize it. Super simple. Now I was going to be creating 2 of these, so I ended up duplicating it and then I sent it to print. And again, I'm gonna cut it out on that black smart vinyl and you're just gonna run it through your machine. Now I decided I wanted to place these birds on some scrapbook paper. I have a ton of scrapbook paper in my stash, so I just grabbed 2 colors that I thought would work great for this project. You could use any paper. You could also use fabric for this. I kind of thought about using fabric and at the last minute I was like, no, I'm not gonna use fabric, but really endless. You could use like old music notes. I thought that would be really cool as well. I did something similar to that last year, so I try to do new stuff for you guys, but there's really a lot of possibilities here. So I'm gonna trace around the scrapbooking paper, then you're gonna cut it out, and then I'm gonna eyeball the birds on there. You guys know that I don't do a lot of measuring, so I'm just gonna place them on there and try to get them about the same height. Then I'll put the scrapbook paper back into the frames. And here's how they look styled on my shelf. Whenever I create these Dollar Tree DIYs, they're actually like several days of working on these projects, just from coming up with the ideas, shopping for items, creating the items, doing the voiceover that I'm doing now. So it's actually quite a process. And there's always one project that really just kind of throws me off or I just struggle with it. For this video, it was this macrame pumpkin. I was having trouble figuring out how to wrap the macrame on there. I really wanted it to be vertical and it just wasn't working out. So I think I figured out how to do it where it went around horizontally. So you guys will have to let me know what you think of this. So you're gonna grab just any pumpkin you have in your stash. Honestly, this was one that I had that was like left over from last year. I'm gonna be using the same macrame cord that I use in a lot of my projects, a lot of my wall hangings, and I'll link it for you guys down below. But if you've done any of these similar projects, you probably have this on hand. And I'm gonna start at the base of the pumpkin, wrapping the macrame around kind of like how I did with the nautical rope on the rope tray. You're just gonna start hot gluing and wrapping it around. I'm gonna keep hot gluing, not worrying if I get it down into the grooves of the pumpkin, because I found that it naturally just kind of laid down there as I was going. And the thing I'm gonna do at the end is gonna help that as well. So I'm gonna continue to wrap this around until I get to the top, and I'm gonna hot glue it in place. Next, I wanted to create vertical lines. So I grabbed that same nautical rope and I pulled apart 3 different strands from one piece of nautical rope. I'm gonna hot glue one edge of the string, wrap it around, and then hot glue it to the bottom. Now I did this with 3 strands so that I had 6 vertical stripes. To top it off, I like to use sticks at the top just to add that natural element. So I grabbed a stick from outside. Dollar Tree also has these available, so you can grab those as well. And I just hot glued it to the top. I think in the end, it turned out okay. It was not a fail, but it was a little tricky to figure out. Dollar Tree has been awesome lately with their frames. When I came across these 3 gold ones, I knew I had to pick them up. Now I love shadow frames like this because you can really do some simple projects or you can make them more personal. I wanted to do something for you guys that would be great for fall, so I grabbed some different garlands that they had at Dollar Tree in different fall colors. From there, I'm gonna take off the back glass piece and I'm gonna pull the cardboard off. Now underneath the cardboard there was this little like sticky piece, and so that was actually all the glue that I needed to put the leaves on. Now I'm going to cut off 3 of the leaves that I think will be great displayed in these frames. So once I put the leaf on, I put it back into the frame. And I repeated this for the other 2 frames. And I think this display of 3 looks perfect on my shelf for fall. I think that I've really been into florals this fall. I have this one set of florals that I just love from Dollar Tree. I wish I would have picked up just a million of them because they're so nice and natural. So I just wanted to display these in my living room. So I grabbed a Dollar Tree vase. This is one they have at most stores, so hopefully you can find it. I'm simply going to grab some twine. I'm gonna hot glue my twine around the base of this glass jar. This is a really easy DIY that I like to do that I think just really gives something extra to your florals. It also covers up that bottom portion. When you put your florals into a clear vase, I don't necessarily like seeing them at the bottom. I think this kind of makes it look a little bit more finished, so that's why I like to do that. Next, I'm going to put the florals I grabbed at Dollar Tree into the vase, and I'll show you how I styled them in my living room.